And welcome to another episode of Chords and Conversations. I'm Chris Hludzik.
And I'm Bryan Brophy.
And on today's episode, we are going to be discussing the exact moment when we knew we wanted to become musicians and or the moment that we knew it was possible to become a musician. You always hear certain bands, musicians talk about certain points where they had that kind of moment of clarity that they knew, like, okay, this is what I want to do, or oh my God, this is possible, I could do this. And so today, basically, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about our kind of aha moment when we knew we were going to get into music. Bryan, why don't you go first?
Well, for me, it was several moments, I would say. From a very young age, I was always fascinated by music and musicians and musical instruments. My mother, she used to play the Boston Pops and stuff like that on the TV, especially around the holidays. And I was like fascinated by the shiny instruments and the people in their tuxes and everything. It really was something special. And that's one of the reasons why I still love classical music around the holidays, is it just reminds me of that time when I was a kid. So I knew that I always wanted to do something with music. And for a while, especially in early elementary school, I was obsessed with classical music and going to see the orchestra, and my parents would take me to see the Philharmonic and other types of ensembles play. And I was just always really intrigued by musicians. And I even used to pretend that I was them, and I would make instruments out of cardboard or paper, whatever, and I would put the recordings of the Boston Pops or whatever orchestra was playing, and I would pretend that I was playing those instruments. And fast forward to later elementary school, Wayne's World came out, and the Bohemian Rhapsody scene.
Classic.
And yes. And I said, I want to do that. I just thought that it was so cool, guys with long hair and shredding the guitars and playing the drums and stuff like that. And I was just like, I really like this. This is awesome.
I am stunned to know that in all the years I've known you, I never knew you liked or even saw Wayne's World. We need to watch that together now, because that is one of my absolute favorite movies. Like, I love that movie.
Yes.
There's so much quotable stuff from it. No stairway denied.
Yeah.
I really think that did make a lot of people, maybe if not get into music, at least get into Queen, at least be interested maybe in classic rock as a whole, and like because they saw it being kind of personified as all these two cool looking dudes, headbanging to it and whatever, and it probably did, influence a lot of people.
Definitely.
But that is cool.
Yeah, you never knew that about me?
No. I
Yeah,
never pictured you as someone that would watch Wayne's World.
Definitely. I was totally into it. I think it was fourth grade maybe when that came out?
The first one came out in 92, the second one came out in 94, so that would have been fourth grade.
Okay, so 92. All right.
But you probably saw it, around sometime, because back then VHS tapes would get released like a year after the movie came out.
True.
So it's possible you could have saw it in fourth grade or something.
Yeah, so I was going to say like third, fourth grade. I know it was right around the time where I joined the school band.
Yeah.
So anyway, I really got into Wayne's World and rock and roll and Queen. I was obsessed with Queen. My dad had a bunch of Queen records, and I was like, I want to do that. And at some points, I actually used to try to sing like Freddie Mercury and things like that, even though I was a drummer.
Roger Taylor was a drummer, and he sang.
Yep.
I'm in love with my car.
Exactly. And did you know I asked my mom if I could dye my hair blonde so that I could look like Roger Taylor?
Oh my God.
When I was a little kid.
It's amazing.
So anyway, fast forward. So I joined the school band, and I was pretty much light years ahead of the oldest kids in the band. And I was afraid to let anybody know that I was better than all of them. And I'm not trying to be cocky, because I really was like, what are these kids doing? Like, that's not how you play that or whatever. And my dad was like, you need to tell them that you can play this better than the older kids. Maybe he'll give you a chance. And so one day my dad forced me to stay back and play in front of the band director. And so I played, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, like this is awesome. I want you to play drum kit in the Christmas concert." And I was like, "Yeah, but that's so and so. Like that's." He's like, "No, I want you to do it now." Nice. And then I felt bad.
Yeah.
But the other kid was like, "Dude, you're awesome. I want you to play." So that was cool.
Well, that worked out then.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well. So I knew that I was good enough to actually do this. I did take piano lessons too, all through elementary school, but I was kind of more fascinated by playing the drums.
Yeah.
And I would practice the drums all the time, and I really wouldn't practice the piano. Sorry, Roxanne. She was my first piano teacher. But then later on, I was able to use my piano skills for
You did
other
quite
things.
well on the piano. I'm pretty sure she'd be proud of you. So at first for you, it was like a visual thing, seeing like the big orchestras and,
Yes.
and all the trombones, the horns, everything.
Yeah, the shiny
seeing all
instruments.
That.
Yes.
And then it became kind of a more visceral thing when you saw Wayne and Garth jamming out to Bohemian Rhapsody in Wayne's World.
Yeah, and I think at first my parents were shocked because I went from, I want like coattails on my coat to, can you buy me a flannel shirt so I can look like Garth?
It's amazing. My pinpoint exact moment I'll get to in a little bit, but since you kind of started off with kind of going back a little bit, kind of similar to you, you know, my parents always played music in the car. We always had Rock 107 on the radio. Mm-hmm. So I was exposed to the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Pink Floyd, etc. from very early on. And it was mostly British rock stuff. That was my dad's wheelhouse. My dad was a Beatles and Stones guy, like full stop. And he liked other stuff, but as I got older, you know, I started kind of developing my own tastes, as you do. And it's around like the age of like maybe like 11 or 12. At least that's the way it was for me when you kind of start musically maturing. At least I did. Because I've been listening to music since I was like 5 or 6 years old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I remember vividly watching the music video for We Didn't Start the Fire on TV when it was new back in 1989. Because I remember my grandmother picked me up. We were going to go see my brother, John, when he was born. And I remember watching that on TV before we left. Such a weird memory to have, but I remember it.
So I have a memory of a music video.
Okay.
So this actually isn't a good thing. The video terrified me, and you're going to laugh at this. So my parents always had VH1 on as well. Yeah. And that song, Got My Mind Set on You.
By George Harrison.
By George Harrison. That video with like the deer heads.
Yeah,
like,
everything was moving behind him.
Everything was moving behind him. That terrified me.
Oh, God.
When that was on, I would ask my parents to shut it off. It terrified me.
So, you know, it was kind of similar for me. At first, it was kind of like connection with what I saw and what I was exposed to when I was younger. As I got older, like I said, around the age of like maybe like 11, 12, probably around the time that we met. Mm-hmm. That's really when I kind of started musically maturing. And I was like, okay, you know, my dad likes this. What about, you know, other stuff? You know, so like if he liked a band or something, I'd be like, what about the solo projects or side projects? I would get into stuff like that and check that out. Or how about this album that they did that nobody really talks about? Like, what's this album? What's the story with this? And I used to like absorb liner notes, and I would just read liner notes on my dad's records, and I would just suck that stuff up like a sponge. And so then I started writing my own lyrics around this time, and really starting to get, you know, inspired by the music I was listening to and stuff. And my lyrics were absolutely friggin' trash, as they are when you're younger. But it was still cool. It was exciting. It's like, yeah, I'm writing lyrics. But I also wanted to learn how to play an instrument, and I also wanted to learn how to sing, and I also wanted to record myself. And there was one album that showed me that all that was possible for one person to do it. And that was McCartney by Paul McCartney. Mm-hmm. His debut solo album from 1970.
I always felt that Paul's solo stuff was way better than all the other ones, but that's just, you know, my
I mean, Paul knew how to write.
I just resonated with Paul's songs the best.
Paul knew how to write a song. Yeah. And that was the thing. John could write a song, but John got in his own way too often. Paul just knew what he was doing. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, they were all great musicians, but Paul knew, whether you want to call it a formula, I don't know what you want to call it, but he knew what to do.
Yeah, but for me, when I hear Paul, it's always something magical. Like the other Beatles had some great stuff too, but yeah, there was just something about Paul's.
And the thing is too, is like the one thing that's easy to forget about Paul is just how musical he is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like he's just dripping music. It's like stupid. You find out years later that the great drumming back in the USSR isn't Ringo, it's Paul.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, back to what I was saying. The McCartney album was kind of like the defining moment of the meeting of writing and production and recording, because that album, Paul wrote himself, produced, he engineered it, and he performed it. He did it all himself. You know, a lot of people said at the time, oh, you know, those songs were just throwaways. There's a lot of instrumentals on the album and stuff, which there are, but still, like, they're pretty cool little things. There's some cool ideas there, but amidst the songs, like Man We Was Lonely is a great song. Junk is an amazing song. Mm-hmm. I think Junk is brilliant. And then, of course, the tour de force of the album and the biggest song off the album, Maybe I'm Amazed. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest love songs ever. Amidst all this other weirdness and stuff. It was like Paul was saying, yeah, you know what? I could still do this, but I could do all this other stuff too. Right. And I'm not afraid to do it. And so for me, it was like, okay, this guy, he wrote all this stuff. He recorded it. He produced it. He played it. I was like, that's what I want to do. And so that album made me want to do that. And so pretty much the majority of my solo stuff has been just that. Like, I've had guests on my album, and obviously the one thing I can't do is play drums, and that's where Bryan comes in. But I played all the guitars, I played the bass, do the vocals, write the songs, produce, record it in some cases. And so without that album, I don't know that I'd be doing music. Or if I was, I don't know if I'd be doing it in the way that I do. Mm-hmm. But that album informed all of that for me. And so that was the pinpoint moment when I knew I can do this music thing. I always wanted to do it, but I never was sure. But then when I heard McCartney, it was like, if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
Granted, he's Paul McCartney and I'm not, but yeah. It's not just the fact that Paul wrote and performed and produced and recorded it. It was just the fact that he had the moxie to do it after all of that. He could have just as easily said, you know what? I'm never going to do anything as good as this. I was just on the craziest roller coaster ride in the world being in the Beatles. There's nothing that I could do that's going to top this.
Right.
But he decided to go and do his own thing, which turned out to be a really good thing.
Did you know my first concert was Paul McCartney?
I know, you told me. I'm so jealous.
It was the Off the Ground tour. Yeah. And I remember every song that they did, and I had to be... What year did that come out?
93.
93. So I was, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was actually 1 year younger than my son is now, and I remember everything about the concert.
It's amazing.
To the smell of the cleaners that the people were using, like everything. Okay. You know, like the janitors, like if someone spilled something or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, like I can remember all of that.
I thought you were going to say you were going to remember a different smell.
No. Although I did smell that too.
Which is prevalent at concerts like that.
Yes, yes.
For me, that was the pinpoint moment, and it was especially important to my musical journey because it combined all the things that I wanted to do. The writing, the performing, the production, and the recording. Mm-hmm. It combined all of those, and there really weren't many other albums that did that. I've always had respect for people that were kind of like the one-man band. Mm-hmm. You know, I've always dug that.
You know, the thing about being a one-man band is I always dreamed of having a band. And, like, I've been in bands, but I've never had my band where I'm the front guy, I write the songs, everyone else in the band plays my songs. And the reason why I never had that band was because I was just too busy playing in everyone else's bands. Yeah. And all my music I just did as side projects. And I kind of regret that, but at the same time, you know, everybody has a different path and there must be a reason for it. Although having total control over your project, though, for someone like me, when I write a song, I hear it completely arranged out and everything. Like, I know exactly what I want to do. And if someone touches it, it's like, that's not what I want the song to sound like. Now, when I collaborate with you, I expect you to do something different with it. And you always do.
Yeah.
You always do something that I couldn't even fathom. Like, I never even thought in a million years that that would work in my song.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there are pros and cons to that.
And we'll talk about that more in the next episode.
Sure.
This wasn't a long episode, folks, but we just wanted to kind of pinpoint the moment or moments.
Yes.
As we've come to find out, when we knew we wanted to and or could be musicians.
Yeah, I think it's like an evolution.
Yeah.
You know, like there's that moment, and then there's a bigger moment, and then there's another moment that makes a turn that's like, oh, well, I want to do this now, but it's still all kind of interconnected. It's like a web.
But as you have probably figured from listening to various episodes of our podcast, it's all about the journey. It's all about the evolution. It's all about the little steps along the way that get you to where you're going.
Yep.
And so with that being said, I think that's as good a place as any to close this episode off. We want to thank you for listening to Chords and Conversations. I'm Chris Hludzik.
And I'm Bryan Brophy.
And we'll talk to you again soon. The Chords and Conversations podcast was conceived and produced by Bryan Brophy and Chris Hludzik and engineered, edited, mixed, and mastered by Chris Hludzik. The Chords and Conversations podcast theme song is an instrumental version of The Powers That Be by The Latter Day from their 2006 album As We Speak, and was written by Chris Hludzik, produced and performed by Bryan Brophy and Chris Hludzik, and engineered, mixed, edited, and mastered by Chris Hludzik. All rights to this podcast and its content reserved by Bryan Brophy and Chris Hludzik.